Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about how the Subaru EJ motor lawsuit affects you in 2021. This is a follow-up video to the previous videos I've put out about the lawsuit, the Subaru lawsuit, kind of everything about it. So if you haven't seen those other videos, please consider watching them. I'm going to briefly recap what the lawsuit is, who's affected, and how it affects you in 2021 if you haven't done anything, or if you're just finding out what this lawsuit is and that you could possibly be affected. Unfortunately, it's not widely known when cars do go under things like lawsuits, class action lawsuits, or they have widespread issues. Unfortunately, it's just hard to get that information out because these cars are sold and bought used all the time, and Subaru can only do so much to get that information out to every one of its drivers. Before we get too far into the video, guys, let's roll a clip of what I'm driving right now, which is my 2016 Subaru WRX. It is pro-tuned through Brent Tuning. This thing makes a decent amount of power. I'll be sure to do some pulls. I'll be sure to do some pulls during this video to show you guys exactly what this car is about. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do apologize that we are doing the POV kind of winter driving series. Unfortunately, weather is just not good here in Boston, so I'm doing as many part installations as possible, but I can't put out a part installation every week. So although this is POV driving, there will be some pulls and some juicy information. Don't be afraid to stick through the video and consider subscribing to the channel because I will continue to modify my car even through the winter, just not at the same frequency, and I'm gonna come out with juicy stuff like this. And once it snows, guys, lots of POV and drifting in the snow videos. I've left the summer tires on the car. Who is affected by this lawsuit? This lawsuit is a class action lawsuit that was brought to Subaru into the federal courts by a handful of drivers, and eventually lots of other owners kind of got in on the action, and we've got a class action lawsuit that was settled by Subaru. It covers the 2012 through 2017 EJ25 motors and the cars that came equipped with those, which is going to be the 2012 through 2014 WRX and the 2012 through 2017 WRX STI. Now, before you guys get scared because you're like, wow, I have one of those cars and I'm within that grouping, pause, don't worry. You might not have an issue. It's not all cars, it's only some cars. Now, again, I'm not gonna touch too much on what the lawsuit was, but it was about metal particulates running through the engine. Different things were reported, but I think the legal terms were metal particulates running through the engine, causing premature engine failure under normal driving conditions. And that's what's concerning. It's not just tuned vehicles. It's not just people that have done things to their cars. It's happening in basically all vehicles. 2 years ago, Subaru actually settled the lawsuit. Basically, they said, okay, we acknowledge there was a problem. We're going to provide a settlement so that everybody owned those cars are going to get some type of compensation to offset the, the potential costs they had with failed engines. So specifically, you're affected if your engine was built between October 11th of 2011 and November 16th of 2016. So if you've got your VIN in hand and you want to call Subaru to figure out if you're affected, and they just ask what your engine date is, and if they tell you your engine production date is between those dates, then you might consider yourself affected. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, if you haven't had to replace your engine, or if you hadn't had to spend any out-of-pocket costs, specifically as the first owner, then nothing happens, right? Subaru isn't gonna do anything for you. You haven't really been affected by the problem. Now, what they've done, if you haven't experienced anything, because I think that's the first thing you guys are probably asking, they've increased your warranty to a 10-year powertrain warranty or up to 100,000 miles on your powertrain, and it's not 100,000 miles. Let's give it a little bit of gas here. It was a terrible start. I do apologize. I wasn't paying attention to my clutch really that well, but what was I saying? I got a little distracted there. So up to 100,000 miles, it's not an addition of 100,000 miles, so I do apologize if that is disappointing news. So you should be somewhat protected. You know, I like to say this with everybody that owns cars. You know, don't drive your car into the ground. You're not protected, especially if you've got all these extended warranties. They only cover you to a certain point. And if you're gonna drive your car into the ground, expect things to have to get replaced. That's just the nature of owning a car. So if you're under warranty, great, you're protected. They're gonna replace anything that is potentially at fault. Now, where it gets a little hairy here is they've basically clearly specified your car has to be stock. Now that might be very unfortunate information because rarely do you see stock STIs and WRXs with that many miles on them. At some point during their ownership, they were modified. It's just there's a high likelihood that that's the case. Now, I have seen people take all the parts off their cars and go to dealers and claim that they were stock, and I've seen everything been replaced under warranty. So I'm not gonna pass any judgment here. I'm not gonna tell you that's what you should do. I'm just gonna say I've seen it happen, so keep that in mind. Again, you're not hearing me tell you to do that. I'm just saying that I've watched that happen. But let's say you're one of those unfortunate drivers and owners that has experienced a issue, right? And you've had to spend out-of-pocket money to have your engine work done. Now, as long as you can prove it, you've got receipts and everything, Subaru is providing compensation. They're providing $3,500 to $6,500 in compensation if you've had to spend out-of-pocket expenses on fixing your engine because of a failure related to this problem. Now, if you've done the work at a Subaru dealer, even if you've spent more money, it is 100% reimbursement if you've done the work and have receipts from it being done at a Subaru dealer. Now, the $3,500 to $6,500 is if you had it done at a different shop or an alternate, mechanic or whatever. Somebody that's licensed, somebody that's provided you with receipts, they're going to refund you that amount of money. Now, again, this is if you are the first owner. So I highly recommend, if you guys are the first owners, get your receipts together and call SOA immediately and figure out how to get your money back or how to get some money back. It's funny, I was worried because there's a truck towing a car in front of me, and I wanted to go fast through this area, and they're actually driving, and I was worried they were gonna be slow, but they're actually driving faster than I feel comfortable driving around this area because there's always cops up here. So thank you for being the test case, good sir, or madam. Well, I don't want to assume gender here. How does it affect you in 2021? And I think this is the most important part of this video in 2021. What if you're the second, third, or fourth owner, right? It's not super clear. Unfortunately, Subaru's settlement clearly talks about the primary owner and their expenses. Now, they don't say anything about the second owner, and that's a good and bad thing because they don't say anything positive, nor do they say anything negative, meaning they don't explicitly say it doesn't work for the second owner, which is a good thing for you if you were the second, third, or fourth owner, because they haven't counted you out, nor have they written you legally out of the settlement. The problem is, though, it's very gray. The idea of transferable whatever it is very gray. Of course, if you're not the person that spent the money and the first owner did, you don't get to get that money. It's not free money to you. Let's say you're in the position that you're owed some money from Subaru, but you weren't the first owner and you can't really attest to how the car was treated and what happened with the car in its first whatever amount of years and miles of ownership. Unfortunately, guys, I don't have a straightforward answer for you, and I know that's gonna suck. Now, what I do have is a few kind of points that you should kind of pursue when you end up calling SOA, because calling SOA is unfortunately your only recourse of action and the only thing you can really do here. And we're actually just turning around here to go right back through Blue Hills because it's one of my favorite places to drive in this area. Unfortunately, I don't have better places to drive. We'll give it a little bit of gasoline here. Let's see what we can do. It is uphill, so I do apologize. There's not much I can do. That was crappy. It was crappy. I might not even include that in the video because so like right on that hill, there's like a cemetery to the right, and more often than not, there's actually cops there. So I always and the way it works is you're about to shift to second, and right as I shift to second, I want to see. That's because that's the opportunity to see. And I'm always, it's always a terrible shift because I'm like waiting to see, and it ruins the 0 to 60. So here are your points when you call SOA. What you really need to do is you need to claim ignorance. You need to say, I have not been notified by this lawsuit, whether or not you have. You also need to say, it's not clear. You haven't told me I can't receive payment. Now, you need to do a lot of education. You need to have all your stuff in front of you. You need to have receipts. You need to have your VIN. You need to have testimonials from the shop that did the work. I'm not suggesting this is going to be something that's easy. We're talking about a lot of money. You need to have everything with you as if you're defending yourself in court. And if you have all that, you can explain the receipts, you can explain why, you can get some type of testimonial from the person that did the work and diagnose the problem. And of course, if you had it done at Subaru, just have your receipts and just say Subaru did the work. Put the responsibility on them to prove otherwise. It's been a while. And you need to be ready to say something about your car being stock. And you need to assess your level of comfort, whether or not you're going to say, yes, it was stock and it wasn't. Whether it is stock, you're going to say it's stock. And if it was lightly modified, you got to be ready to be honest about being lightly modified, because sometimes that's not always a bad thing. Again, I've seen warranty work done with people who are running stage 1 tunes, because a lot of the Subaru guys understand, even if they're the people that don't want to do this warranty work and they don't want to, lose money for Subaru, they get it. It's stage 1+ that really shouldn't affect certain parts of the internal components of the engine. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the POV driving. I feel like you guys have really been enjoying that. I don't know why this person's stopping. So with this, we are going to end this video, guys. Again, thank you for sticking this far through. If you did, I appreciate it. And have a great day, guys. Stay safe.